Men and women are too different to ever be equal. It's like comparing apples and oranges.
It is not possible to achieve equality between men and women. There is no such thing. It simply isn't possible. What is possible is to treat them with equal fairness as individuals. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there will be an equal outcome, for example.
I think the problem with the concept of sexism is that it suggests there is no difference between the sexes and you must treat them both exactly the same, which is so wrong-headed as to be almost ignorant.
Should a man who can carry 2 bricks in his wheelbarrow be paid the same as a woman who can only carry 1 brick? Now, what's the answer to that question? You know, if a man can carry 2 bricks, then during the course of the day he will do twice as much work as the woman who can only carry 1 brick. Therefore, the man might argue, well, I should be paid twice as much as the woman. The woman will say, no, that's not fair because I'm not physically able to carry 2 bricks, and after all, I've done the same amount of work. My point is that if the man was to be paid twice as much as the woman would object, and she would have some justification for making that objection. On the other hand, if they were both paid the same amount, the woman would be happy, but the man is then entitled to object, saying, I'm doing twice the amount of work. My point is, there is no solution. There is no amount of money where people wouldn't say, that's not fair. And it's a question of balance. But there's nowhere to put the balance. There's nowhere to draw the line, which would be agreed upon by everyone.
There is a fundamental difference between the sexes. I mean, if you want an example, just go out and look at all the relationship books about how men and women communicate with each other, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. You won't need books like that if you could treat men and women exactly the same. And sexism is based on that concept, so sexism is now a concept that needs updating, I think, a little bit.
So when women say, a lot of women say, I'm a feminist because I support equality, I feel like tearing my hair out and saying, what do you mean? You mean you get paid the same for carrying 1 brick as I get paid for carrying 2 bricks? To which there's no solution. And that example that I give there applies right across the board. If there are differences between people, inherent differences, there is never going to be a position which will satisfy both of them and which both will see as fair and equal. It's simply it's a political debate all the time, always a political debate.
So we have to ignore gender in that respect?
But if we do ignore gender in that respect, then women will say it's not fair.
So do you think women's
There's a
argument...
permanent war. There's
Yes.
a permanent war. The search for equality is a permanent war. With men saying, hold on, I can carry 2 bricks, and women saying, no, it's not fair, I'm weak and vulnerable.
One man I spoke to described the quest for equality as like aiming for the stars so that you might hit the moon. But it's not like that. There are no stars and there is no moon.
Equality between men and women is a logical impossibility, and so, like the endless staircase, equality lies at the top of it. It seems that if we just keep climbing, we'll eventually reach the top. And even if we never quite reach the top, at least by continuing to climb, we'll surely get closer to real equality, right?
Wrong.
It's a question of balance. But there's nowhere to put the balance. There's nowhere to draw the line, which would be agreed upon by everyone. As a consequence of this gender issue, we are going to be forever engaged in a permanent gender argument. It is never going to end unless we decide to ignore gender completely, hide our eyes and say, how many bricks are they carrying?
If you then do that and then look at it again in terms of gender terms, you are going to see a hierarchy. You are going to see men basically earning more money.
Yes. And women spending it.
True enough, yes. And even in similar jobs, sometimes men will work those extra few hours
Yeah.
and they'll be able to do more as part of that job.
Yes.
And so, do you think that's acceptable and it's the way it should
Completely.
be?
Absolutely. I think it's the only hope we have. But that will happen. I mean, I don't doubt that that's the way that we will head.
It's unfortunate that the false ideal of equality has been made so important since the rise of feminism. Pursuing the unobtainable panacea of equality is wasting an extraordinary amount of energy and resources, and is the cause of massive discrimination against men.